Hi, my name is Spencer Grant, and you're listening to Fourtrees, a Warrior Cats community podcast. So, for this week, and the previous week, and the next week, we're going to be talking about the final book in the new prophecy, Sunset. My friends Cora and Clayton, they were here in previous episodes, now they're together, deal with it. But before we get into all of that, before we start talking about the nitty-gritty, the Warrior Cat stuff, I want to tell a story. One that will help you, as a listener, understand my friend Clayton a little bit better. So without much further ado, let's get into that. Clayton grew up in a metropolitan area on the east coast of the United States of America. He had a fairly average childhood. He had a mom, a nice house, lots of neighboring friends, and his dad came by every Thanksgiving to help with the turkey. He grew up watching cartoons and, similar to many people our age, YouTube. A part of Clayton was always captured by the glitz and glamour of YouTube. There was something so enriching to him about the parasocial relationship between the viewer and the creator, something he dreamed of emulating. There wasn't a word for it yet, but what Clayton wanted to be was an influencer. Another curious thing happened when Clayton was in middle school. An actor called Charles Sheen, known for playing a dwarf on the hit show 2.5 Men, suffered a very public mental breakdown. He was fired from his starring role and replaced with Ashton Kutcher, a television personality who is known for telling lies to people and then making fun of them when they believe those lies. But Ashton Kutcher doesn't matter to this story. What matters is how the world treated Charles Sheen. Charlie Sheen's meltdown wasn't the first celebrity topic to obliterate the news cycle both on television and the internet, and it wouldn't be the last. However, it was one of the first to be so widely meme-ified. The internet was afloat with references to what Charlie Sheen was saying. Things about how he had tiger's blood and obsessively turning winning into a catchphrase. For one last sputtering moment, Charlie Sheen was an influence upon the zeitgeist. Then all was quiet. It's hard to be sympathetic to the wealthy and powerful. Charlie Sheen is an anti-vaxxer and a 9/11 truther, and I don't think he's a particularly good person. However, it is even more difficult not to see the inherent hardship of having some of the worst moments of your public life mocked by millions, and understand that you do not get to choose your 15 minutes of fame. However, even after seeing that, even after watching it unfurl in the formative moments of his life, Clayton would never renege on his dream to become an influencer. That is the kind of person he is, and that is how driven he is by his goal.
I'm sorry, I'm just now stuck on the idea of inbreeding and what's the, so did you ask the ecologist, because I know there's a certain number where it's the breeding population required to not have just insane amounts of inbreeding in a population, and I'm almost positive that the warrior clans do not meet that threshold.
Yeah, they almost certainly do not.
It's less than 20 cats a clan, isn't it?
There are 50 cats in Thunderclan, and then 8 for the rest.
That can't be a sustainable breeding population.
Yeah. That's the thing, is that a breeding population has to be in the thousands, basically, for it to be sustainable, for it to not have issues with genetics and genetic bottlenecks. And the warrior cats, and unless we were to treat that each cat as an abstraction, or we were to assume that there are hundreds more cats in this forest that we're just not getting to see and don't really have names and are invisible, then there's basically no way for you to assume that these cats aren't insanely inbred unless you decide that reproduction is magic, which it very well might be, because I think
Starclan
and Crowfeather.
Starclan gets rid of all the genetic issues from the inbreeding. They get rid of them.
I guess. Sorry, these cats are magical.
Yeah, yes. Oh man, I'm really for the take now that the Fourtrees, but that the entire force is essentially, the equivalent of a French royal family.
The freaking Habsburgs.
And the reason why all the half-breeds, the half-clan catches dominate is because they're the only ones that don't have crippling genetic disorders.
Like,
Due to years of inbreeding, oh my god.
Like, that's probably why they die so young too.
Like, hang on, I'm doing some looking things up real quick,
and
apparently you remember the whole dust pelt and fern paw thing that was like. Yeah, in addition to being like, hey, this looks like grooming, also their dust pelt seems to be Ferncloud's uncle.
Yup.
What is going on?
Yes, he is. They're side characters. Nobody would notice anyways.
Understandable.
We'd notice if like Graystripe was, I don't know. Does Graystripe have any children? I guess not. Or he.
I
guess not. Yes.
That was.
He has so many children that it's a problem.
Yeah, and also, like, the pivotal, like, the entire point of one of the books.
That's true. I think if like Stormfur, if like Feathertail and Stormfur were getting together, people would raise eyebrows because they're main characters. But this is Dustpelt, for God's sake. He hasn't been relevant in probably around 10 books by now, and there have only been 12 books we've gone through so far.
Yeah, and I mean, his only real relevance.
He's just not very important,
like,
and that's
to be mean, Dustpaw, mean, not nice, mean.
Yeah, and then there was people. Apparently, that was supposed to be a love triangle. I don't think it counts because it was very clearly like a love collection of tangents. Like Sandstorm was in love with Firepaw. Dustpaw was in love with Sandstorm. Like, that's just... Firepaw wasn't interested...
with Spotted Leaf.
He was in love with Graystripe. You get this Graystripe erasure out of my face. But, like, yeah, it wasn't a triangle. That's why, in the last book, it was really irritating me, because, like, Sandstorm was... She was reprimanding Squirrelflight for getting in a love triangle. She was like, Squirrelflight, you're... How dare you be... conventionally attractive to two Toms who are fighting over you. Now they're fighting over you. This is your fault. And it was like, oh cool.
Oh my god.
Why was there so much relationship drama in this book?
It was really, like, in the past 3 books.
No,
Yeah.
but, like specifically, like, as someone who, again, only read this book, there was a lot. Like, Ashfur pulled his whole, like, I'm a nice guy act. He 100%, like... Hey, why wouldn't you date me? I'm a nice guy. I can't believe you friend zoned me.
Yes.
OMG, like, that's his whole thing. He's like, you can't go Brambleclaw. He's a bad guy because of his parents, which is like weirdly so weird racial profiling.
If it makes you feel better, the previous one, which I think was Twilight.
I don't
Book
remember,
5,
man.
was even more full of relationship drama, because not only did you have Ashfur, Brambleclaw, and Squirrelflight, and it was more intense and more central, but you also had Leafpool and Crowfeather off to the side. It was like every single major character
and
was
Leafpool
just...
and Mothwing.
Was Ashfur like a good mate? Like, was he reasonably like attractive recently? Because he was just nice guy. He was full beam me up, soft boy, nice guy stuff. Right?
Yeah, in this book he does a 180.
Like a character assassination, because Ashfur was like a genuinely nice person.
Yeah, like Squirrelflight talked about how she could see himself, falling in love with him, and she genuinely expressed romantic interest. And then suddenly this book happened, and they were like, "Oh crap, we forgot to get the female and the male lead back together. I guess we have to make Ashfur terrible and forgive Brambleclaw for spending 2 books bullying the heck out of Squirrelflight." And that was what happened.
I feel like I'm not sure. It's been a while. I feel like I also remember Ashfur being the one that led Firestar to the Foxtrap.
It is heavily implied that that's what happened, yeah.
Like, and why? Because Squirrelflight?
Yeah, because he's bitter that Squirrelflight didn't...
This is like the most egregious case of character assassination I can remember in the Warrior books.
Yep.
Like, at least up to this point, people have been consistent.
Well,
the
now we
Ashfur
deal with
thing
mouse
also
fur.
doesn't make sense, because the Ashfur
It
thing
doesn't.
but Ashfur thing would mean that he would be, like, led to by Hogfrost, but he would hate Hogfrost because he's Brambleclaw's brother. Hold on. Wait, that doesn't make sense.
You're beginning to unravel the web.
Okay. I mean,
and
is
it's
it
just more
definitely
tangled.
Ashfur? Like, are there? Because the idea is that it was one of the
90%
Thunderclan.
Sure.
It's like one of the.
90% sure it's Ashfur. I think they say that at some point in Power of Three.
I don't think. Oh, they say it in Power of Three. Okay.
I'm
wanna
90% sure. It has been a while.
So that brings me up to the fact that, like, why this book should have had another chapter. This book should have had another chapter.
This book should have ended with Brambleclaw killing Fire.
This book should have ended 3 books before it began. I'll be real.
Look, all I'm saying is if they kept everything consistent and had Brambleclaw be consistent with all of this and end up killing Firestar and taking over Thunderclan and killing Hawkfrost to seize power unabated, basically fully mantling his father and completing one of the many sins of the father plotlines.
I mean, maybe they just don't want to have a sense of the father plotline. You ever think about that? Maybe it's
this is Warrior Cats. Every plotline is sins of the father.
No, but like we can,
many.
Maybe they wanted to turn on their head. That was the idea.
This is the resolution in every one of them.
They already turned it on its head.
They turned it on its head again
with Brambleclaw.
Yeah.
In the last series.
In series 1.
What was that?
For Bramblepaw, there was this whole thing where Tigerstar was like, "Oh, my kids, come live in Shadowclan with me. We're cool." And Tawny Pelt was like, "Well, yeah, because Thunderclan thinks I'm Satan because I'm related to you, so I guess." But Bramblepaw's like, "No, you're awful and evil. Get away from me. You're killing everything." And then he just conveniently forgot about it.
Yeah, he spends like 2 years taking evil lessons from an actual fascist who...
After putting a huge amount of effort into distancing himself from said evil fascist.
And Tawny Pelt, I think Tawny Pelt like just genuinely had the better story here, where she was like, she went with him once she saw her mistakes, she comes back and she's like, what? And Tawny Pelt was a freaking MVP in this book. Like when she's in the Dark Forest and Tigerstar is like, "Come, my child, let's be evil together. It will be great." And Tawny Pelt is like, "What are you talking about? You're freaking evil. I don't want to do that." Like,
honestly, Tawny Pelt is like one of my favorite cats in the entire Warrior series.
She's great. She should have ended up with Squirrel Flight.
I mean, I was doing some research on Tawny Pelt, and apparently, like, to finally complete her plot line about like ambition and Tigerstar, she's deputy at one point, but she eventually abdicates deputyship because she feels she's too old to be.
What a guy!
Like,
she's
Tawny
just
Pelt
so good.
The best, and this is why I think Season 3, Series 3 should not have been about super-powered bramble children.
Yeah.
It should have been about...
They're not bramble children, are they? Like, they're very clearly not. They're leaf pools, kids.
Yeah, I mean, for some reason, no one ever notices she's pregnant, but we're not going to talk about that.
Wait, hold on. Wait, what happens if they're leaf pools kids? What?
Yes, they are.
If you read this book, it's insanely obvious, like, this entire time. Like, this.
Wait, I thought that was Power of... Were you talking about Power of 3?
In Power of 3, the 3 main characters are constantly... They're known to be Brambleclaw and Squirrelflight's cats, but they're actually not. They're Leafpool and Crowfeathers.
When does that come out? When does that come out? Is that like in the end of the series, I guess?
I think so, but like if you read this book, it's incredibly obvious.
I think it's only like 3 books in.
Is it? Oh, I mean,
I think then some like.
But I'll be honest. I did speedrun this book this morning, so maybe I missed out on some elements of it.
Yeah. Basically, Power of 3 derails like a million different things by giving cats also superpowers, and it gets weird. And then there's like the.
I hope you like the relationship drama.
Look, we're not here to talk about Power of 3, but there's also like a bunch of like flooded caves with a very ancient cat under them, directly under the lake territory, and it's very weird. It's very weird, like very, very weird.
I have,
How did you guys?
I have one theory, one hot take theory I'd like to defend real quick.
All right.
I think Brambleclaw isn't actually Tiger Star's kid. I think he's Firestar and Graystripe's love child.
Yo, I stand. Wait, hold on.
No
that means that incest is extremely canon.
Yeah, I have no backing behind this. I just like I like it. I like it.
Actually, is it because is incest extremely canon? Because I don't know with the Power of Three thing, I don't know if Brambleclaw and Squirrelflight ever actually had kids.
Oh, that's a good point. All right, well, in that case,
I feel like maybe it leads credence to. That's why they pretended to have kids because they knew.
You know who's?
You got a point.
Wow, I like how we're really going for the theory where I just said that Firestar and Graystripe had actual children.
Yes.
I mean, they do.
Sure
they did basically raise a child together, and that child is Brackenfur.
Right. Yes. But also, I mean, canonically,
so horribly neglected.
This theory does have Graystripe MPreg. I would like to say.
I hate
Graystripe is the one who gets pregnant.
I mean,
all I'm saying, one of the things that I hate the most about this, like, it really frustrates me, is that one of the characters, Brackenfur, who views himself as partially responsible for Cinderpelt's death, right, at the very beginning. Nobody remembers that they're siblings. Nobody remembers that Brackenfur is Cinderpelt's brother.
And so is Brightheart.
And literally nobody talks about, like, even Brackenfur, like, when he's talking about how guilty he feels, he doesn't mention, oh yeah, that was my sister.
I think maybe he forgot too.
Who I just, like, everyone forgot about Brackenfur. Like, the poor guy.
It was so annoying. There was literally the part where Firestar is deciding whether he wanted to be, whose deputy he wanted to have. I screenshotted this because it bothered me. It was, Brambleclaw, Firestar echoed when she had finished. Yes, he's a good warrior. He would make an excellent deputy. I'm doing a British accent because these cats are in England.
Yes,
and you can't convince me otherwise, Clayton.
Correct.
He shifted amongst the moss and ferns. I'd almost decided to appoint Brackenfur, he went on. He would have been a good deputy too, and he is a loyal warrior. But I have to remember that I'm not only choosing a deputy, I'm choosing the cat who might be the next leader of Thunderclan. And somehow, I'm not sure that Brackenfur is that cat in it. End quote. Like, we could have had Brackenfur deputy, we could have had Brackenstar. We were robbed. I'm so angry about that.
And meanwhile, he goes into no further detail about that. Brackenfur, for all the interesting, like, Brackenfur is interesting by positionality and adjacency. He was partially mentored by Graystripe and Firestar in turns. That makes him interesting. He's the brother to one of the most important characters in the entire series up to this point. That makes him interesting. But he has no personality and nothing going for him. I cannot tell you a single thing about Brackenfur other than his adjacency to more important cats, and I think that's very sad.
I mean, aren't Bracken and Bramble the same thing anyways?
Basically.
So maybe
Bracken is just a plant.
I think leads credence to them to Bramblestar being their love child.
Oh my god, they're brothers.
Then they were brothers.
They were roommates.
It's just very sad. How do you guys feel about the Cloudpaw wife arc? Or Cloudtail's wife arc?
I think that's my favorite part of this book. I will defend it till the day I die. Cloudtail was the only character I enjoyed in this book. And him just being like, I enjoy his entire plot line of just being basically like Homer Simpson. I love my wife. Why is she mad at me?
On one hand, like, why do we need more relationship drama? We already have so much relationship drama. But on the other hand, Cloudtail's relationship drama is one of the only relationship dramas in this book that I thought was honestly, like, the most unobtrusive and acceptable. Because it's not the point of the book, and no one really cares that much.
It's also
like
it's a
some
side
interesting stuff that happened in the background. It was like,
I think it's good that
in the flavor text.
I think it also helps that like Cloudtail's not not a jerk. He's not the bad guy in his story. He's just like kind of dumb.
He's not Brambleclaw.
He's a really nice guy. He's just like, oh, what? Why? Why is my wife mad at me? Ooh.
Wait, oh, look, Cloudtail, he's another pretty competent warrior, isn't he?
Would have been cool to have him as a deputy, but...
Would have been cool if this lends further credence to the fact that the most competent cats are the ones not born in the clans.
Yeah, like the Mousefur's meeting was so funny to me. Like the Mousefur was like, we have to call an assembly. There are too many non-clan cats in Thunderclan. Like, this sucks.
And it just weirds me out that like Mousefur, she's always been portrayed as like a little bit gruff, right? Mm-hmm. But since like the very first book.
But racist?
She was never like a cantankerous, racist, xenophobic. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. She was pretty neutral to Firestar joining to Rusty, I guess, joining the clan. Like,
yeah.
She didn't really care. It was mostly like, I feel like, you know what the best way to sum up the new prophecy is? I think.
Yeah.
The Erin Hunters just looking at each other, like,
shrugging.
Hey, all of our villains have been played out. What do we do? Make everyone...
I kind of like the institutional villain.
Just make everyone the villain. Everyone's the villain now. Except
Brambleclaw was even the villain for a second. No, he was like...
Brambleclaw wasn't the villain. He was just the misunderstood protagonist because Brambleclaw can do no wrong.
No, he was saying, like, when Mousefur called her meeting, Brambleclaw was like, yeah, I agree. I don't think we should have kitty pets in the clans. And then later we get a point of view chapter, and he's like, oh no, I didn't think about what that the things that I said might have hurt the people closest to me, like, you know, the kitty pet leader that I, you know, father figure that I have, or
and
all of my friends who are half clans.
My love interest, whose father is actually that kitty pet leader, who's
my
father figure / actual father.
It's just such a strange, so many strange decisions made.
I feel like it could have been worked if it was part of a larger overarching storyline, but it was just kind of dropped in the middle. Like, there's a storyline about Stormfur and Brook being out of place in Riverclan.
Yeah, and something's up in the mountains, but they're not talking about it. And so then, I guess we're gonna have to figure that out later.
The Erin Hunters were just like, okay, lean into it harder. Make Thunderclan also have this.
You know what it sounds like to me?
Yeah?
It sounds like to me that this was sort of the last episode of the finale of How I Met Your Mother of Warrior Cats for you guys, where it was unnecessary, it was a lot of stuff, and it sort of ruined the past 3 seasons of character development. Is that what I'm hearing here?
I mean, I think, okay, look, here's my big take. I think that Sunset is a wonderful lead-up to the ending if the ending is different.
You're very focused on ending.
I'm very focused on the ending because this is well, of course I'm focused on the ending. This is the finale of the series. The whole point of it
I've just kind of been along for the ride for the last couple of books, to be honest.
I think that this ending could have been a little better. I think you could have kept this ending because we can't kill Firestar because Firestar's cool. Firestar's great.
I do like him.
Yeah, but so is Tony Pelt.
He's a himbo king. We need to keep him.
That's true.
It feels like they were just trying to sort of really wash their hands of the whole Tiger Star plot. Though I'm sure Tiger Star comes back because isn't later in the series, because this is when we see more of Cat Hell, and I remember we talked about how Cat Hell does get released into the mortal realm.
Yeah,
later on.
It's funny you should say that they're trying to wash their hands of the Tiger Star thing because
come back. I don't.
One of Leaf Pool's kits also starts training with Tiger Star.
Wow.
I think they're trying to wash their hands of Hawkfrost at the very end.
Yeah, that's what it seems like.
Which also
whoops, we kind of spent too much time.
Brambleclaw had killed him and Firestar. I'm sorry, I'm extremely focused on this because I hate the ending of this book.
I think it's a great I think your ending is a great idea. I just think that it might be too cerebral for Erin Hunter.
Yeah, I think
Warriors fan fiction.
I think this ending could have worked if it had 2 more chapters to resolve something and set up a better future.
Like a little bookend. Like with the last book, it was literally the last sentence of the last book was also Stormfur and Brook are there. And with this book, the last sentence had a very it felt the same way. It was like, yeah, we know you're gonna read the next series, so what's the point in resolving anything that happens here?
Well, so here's the thing, though. I feel like
we understand how the sunk cost fallacy works. You're not gonna stop now.
It feels different because this is the end of like a whole arc. So the next part, the Power 3 jumps off. Like I feel like they should have had. I was expecting a chapter where it was like the next gathering, where like they they announced Brambleclaw as deputy. They explained, hey, Riverclan, you know how Hawkfrost was alive? Well, let me tell you, that's different now.
Yeah, I don't think that's ever remarked on. I can't remember that ever being remarked on by Riverclan in the later books.
That's weird.
I guess there is like a bit of a time skip between this and the next books, though, right?
Yeah, but it's just weird that like there isn't another chapter of like, oh, hey guys, yeah, Hawkfrost tried to kill Firestar, so he's dead now. You should maybe take a look at your warriors.
For sure, like it's just.
Hey, remember when you were all like following Hawkfrost? You were all following Hawkfrost when you threw out 2 of your warriors.
Yeah.
You banished them into our clan. You know how that happened?
Turns out he posted cringe.
Yeah.
I have a lot of. I'm gonna change my. Actually,
oh no.
You know, I was gonna say I'm gonna change my tune a little and talk about what I like about Sunset, because I don't like being solely negative. I'm trying, but I really don't like this book.
There's not a lot of riffs. We don't have a lot of riffs this episode. It's kind of disappointing.
Okay, I'm looking at.
What can you riff off here?
I mean, I already did Graystripe MPreg. That was like the end of my.
That was pretty good.
That was the far. I really reached for that one, and I feel like
there are
nothing
3
else.
pages between Squirrelflight discovering that Firestar is bleeding in the forest and Brambleclaw is standing above him, his paws matted with blood, and the ending.
Yeah.
Like there is. It's literally just like Cinderpelt finds her dad and he's like, Brambleclaw, you saved his life. And we don't even get like a little bookend. It's just like excerpt from Warriors Power of 3 #1, the site. And it's like, oh, cool. So
maybe this book could have been more interesting and have more investment if they'd had all focused on Brackenfurth's feelings of inadequacy at not being able to save his sister from death while trying to protect his kids. God.
It's too cerebral. We need to talk about Cloudtail's love life now.
Yeah, Brackenfurth's a side character. We can't listen to anything he has to say.
I hate how it feels like in the first Warriors. The first Warriors felt so much smarter. Like the first series felt so much smarter, and it's so weird to me. Like, it feels like they went backwards.
There was, like, a planned ending.
The side characters are only there for Cloudtail's haha, white mad, I don't know why, comedic boomer humor.
Well, not even, like, focus on the side character.
They're there to be racist. That's the 2 uses for it. They're there to be xenophobic. They're there to be haha, funny boomer humor. What else are they there for? Unnecessary conflict that takes us out of the forest and back in, like with Daisy.
Yes.
Where nothing was gained.
Is resolved.
And we do have to have 1 or 2 cats that we don't care about that can die during a conflict to prove that the conflict was bad, but also not so bad that we have to write around losing one of our main characters, because that would be hard.
Which, they did in the first. All I'm saying is the first. My big problem with the New Prophecy arc is that it feels like it is a downgrade in how they wrote the villains primarily, because in the Prophecies Begin, I think it's called now. It felt much more focused. Tiger Star as a villain felt threatening. There was a lot more, not so much needless brutality, but he felt like a tangible threat.
Yeah.
Because there were, like, important characters that just died. Tiger Star just killed them.
It felt like Game of Thrones a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, and you didn't know who was going to die when.
We've gone from Cat Game of Thrones to Cat Twilight.
Yeah, it's Cat Riverdale, basically.
And, like...
I'm about to... Wait, I want to say, are we... If we're... I can take it in a different direction, I realize, because if we're... I got a solid riff we could do.
Oh, give us the
all right.
riff.
So I got the PDF up, and I'm just going to go through, and I'm going to read every sentence where the word sunset is used.
Okay.
How does that sound? Can we do that?
Yeah, let's do that.
I'm down.
I want all cats who are fit to go out on a... Yeah, I can't speak today. I want all cats who are fit to go out on a hunting patrol, Firestar went on. By sunset, I'd like all the clan to be well fed and the fresh kill pile stocked up, right? So that's page... This doesn't have a page... 100. The first time 100 is used, sunset is used, page 100. Did it go...
Does it pick up in frequency towards the end?
Wait. I thought this bit would go longer. It's used twice in the entire book.
Did you use Control F and then find the publication information?
No. I mean, I hadn't checked the number yet. It's 5. 5 times, 3 of which are publication. And then it's used twice in the book. It's
the second time?
This one is on page 220, so another 120 pages. It's also Firestar again. Very well, Firestar meowed. You can go, but if Daisy says she wants to stay where she is, come straight back and leave her in peace. Best wait until sunset, he added. There won't be so many two legs around.
You know that classic Firestar quote? Best wait until sunset. There won't be too many two legs. I still remember his words echoing in my mind whenever I think
It's the
about
only
Firestar.
2 times they say sunset in the entire book. And I can tell you what, I definitely both times went, haha, like the title of the book.
Okay. All right, I think that's gonna do it. Thank you so much for listening to Fourtrees, our Warrior Cats community podcast. I've been your host, Spencer Grant, and I'd like to thank our guests, Clayton and Cora, for joining us for the last little while. You guys have been wonderful. It's been so much fun. Fourtrees is recorded live in front of a studio audience at Druids Hollow Studios here in Bristol. Our theme was composed and performed by Spencer Chopin Grant and mixed by Alex Turner. Our graphics and 3D assets were designed by Spencer Diablo Grant, and our editor is Spencer Pagliacci Granta. The Warrior Cat series is written by Erin Hunter and distributed by HarperCollins. Please support the official release. You can find us at the web at spencergrant.co.uk/Fourtrees or wherever you get your podcasts. You can find our YouTube uploads with auto-generated subtitles and audio visualizations at youtube.com/SpencerGrant. Again, I've been Spencer. You've been wonderful. Bye.